Уважаемые коллеги, добрый день. Мы рады приветствовать вас.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. We are happy to welcome you at this annual event with sell-side analyst meeting with the management team at Detsky. Before we begin this event, we'd like to direct your attention to the following. Some of the information in our today's materials may contain projections or other forward-looking statements regarding future events or the future financial performance of Detsky Mir. You can identify forward-looking statements by terms such as expect, believe, anticipate, estimate, intend, will, could, may, or might, the negative of such terms or other similar expressions. Detsky Mir wishes to caution you that these statements are only predictions and that actual events or results may differ materially. Detsky Mir does not intend to update these statements to reflect events and circumstances occurring after the date hereof or to reflect the occurrence of anticipated events. Many factors could cause the actual results to differ materially from those contained in projections or forward-looking statements of Detsky Mir, including, among others, general economic conditions, the competitive environment, risks associated with operating in the Russian Federation, Kazakhstan, and Belarus, rapid technological and market change in the industries Detsky Mir operates in, impact of COVID-19 pandemic or on the macroeconomic situation on the markets of presence and financial results of Detsky Mir and its subsidiaries, as well as many other risks specifically related to Detsky Mir and its operations. Okay, we're done with that. Colleagues, this is an informal event, frankly speaking. We intend that to be an open discussion. So I suggest that everyone introduces themselves, starting with our team, Detsky. Yeah, happy to welcome all of you to our office. I'm Maria Davidova, and I'm the CEO. Hi, I'm the CFO, Anna Germanova. Uh, Good afternoon, colleagues. Marina Volodina, the commercial director of Operating Fashion. Mikhail Galitsano, Mika. Hello, hi to everyone. I'm in charge of digital products. Hello, Denis Yegorov, head of logistics. Hi, Konstantin Fishberg, commercial director for consumer goods. Hi, everyone. Fyodor Zuzikov, commercial director, Zoe Group of Products. Hi, Rim Sokin, head of marketing. Hello, Artyom Gubanov, head of property and development. We have two more members of the team who are joining online. Pavel Pischikov, that is, head of e-commerce, and Nikolai Yermakov, the IT director. So I suggest that the sell side also presents themselves as Sberbank CIB. Ludmila Melnikova, Sberbank CIB. Elena Zhuronova, JP Morgan.
Alexey Filippov, JP Morgan.
Alexey Filippov, JP Morgan. Murat Ibragimov, Gazprom Bank. Yevgeny Kipnis, Alpha Bank. Kirill Panarin, RenCap. Irina Frumkina, ITA Capital. Stanislav Yudin, ITA Capital. Yegor Makeyev, Raiffeisen. On top of that, we have more members coming on our webcast, and I suggest to arrange it as follows. Before you ask your question during the Q&A session, don't forget to introduce yourself. Okay, our event today is going to last for 2 hours. And before we proceed to the Q&A session, we would like to make a quick intro over to Maria Davidova. Yep, ladies and gentlemen, let me start. I would like to begin our discussion with summing up the outcome of the efforts made by this team in 2020 and also part of 2021, and also discuss the market trends which would still have a strong impact on our business. Please be reminded that Detsky successfully overcame the crisis of 2020 with the lockdown and the COVID. So I can rightly say that Detsky effectively benefited from the situation. We had a very successful year, and we served to prove our resilience in the course of 2020 against the backdrop of rather challenging turbulence in the markets. So we had record high growth of total GMV by 11%, which is very significant for a troublesome year, while the online channel went up by 2.4 times. So, and that was particularly driven by an increase of 40, um, 32% in Q1 2021. Well, we have been focused on consolidating the market, and we were one of the fastest growing players in children's goods retail market. We have managed to consolidate it quite by margin. In the course of 2020, we managed to grow our market share by 3 percentage points, which is a significant number. Currently, it stands at 22% of all children's goods. Moreover, in the crisis year of 2020, we still managed to set a record in adjusted EBITDA. Our adjusted EBITDA stood at nearly our adjusted EBITDA margin stood at nearly 12%, and on top of that, we have paid all of our net income as dividend, standing in excess of 8 billion rubles for the year of 2020. Now let's take a look into 2021. It has been successful very much so far. In Q1, we managed to recover our retail sales in full, and we saw a significant increase in traffic. Also like-for-like traffic, and the GMV is up quite well. In the second quarter, we have managed to push that growth further to a degree that is explained by low base in 2020, especially in April and May. But then we see online segment sales growing, online sales contributing 30% of the company's total GMV. So we see 24% increase in the first half, and again, online segment has a share of 30% growth. So that's and the contribution of online sales to total GMV is even above 30%. Our full year target is 31, and we are moving along these lines very confidently. Please be reminded, last year online went up by 2.4%, and the share exceeded 30%. Now we also expect adjusted EBITDA to grow as well with a target of 25% in the first 6 months. Now considering the market in general, we see the trading down carries on, although the second quarter could see some double-digit growth of consumer spending, but that is explained by the low base of the previous year. Nonetheless, the trend is coming downward. Consumers opt more for cheaper products, which is very true for consumer, which is very true for children's goods retails, especially even in the segments where loyalty is particularly high, such as baby food and nappies. Even in those categories, customers are happy to quickly shift down into cheaper proposition if it's attractive price-wise. And that is also very much visible in apparel and toys. Hence, our focus on private label products and cheaper collections is very much strategically to the point. The crisis of 2020 has further fostered this development. Direct imports and private label goods contribute 44%, which is nearly half of our total revenues. It's still going up this year. We offer not only an exclusive assortment in private label, which our competitors are missing, but also a better price to quality ratio, very much attractive to our customers. And again, that's a fundamental competitive edge on the competition. We differentiate thus from the rest of the market and the other competitors, and also boost our financials. Both with direct imports and private labels, we clearly have a much more attractive margin. So we try to balance that, hitting the sweet spot, and as the private label sales grow, we can offset low margins elsewhere in other categories where the competition is getting tighter, especially from online retailers. Now, uh, importantly, other fundamental market metrics still remain unsatisfactory, such as the birth rate, which is further coming down. That's a long-term trend, nothing new. The pace of this decline is coming down, so true, but clearly there is the demographic slump of the 1990s, well known to the market. Now, those who were born in the 1990s are having their own kids, and that affects the total number of newborns. Nonetheless, Detsky has never focused on the birth rate. We have always put our bet on consolidating the market. As of today, the lower birth rate is already impacting FMCG, baby food, nappies, the goods for newborns. 3 to 5% every year is the annual decline in revenues in these categories. However, on our end, we rather see it as an opportunity. It's definitely playing in our favor because we can fast track market consolidation across all the sales channels on the one hand, and secondly, we see a redistribution of our revenue towards high margin categories, which, just like I said, is apparel and footwear. So we see an opportunity to support our margins here. Now, let me say a few words about the competition, which I believe to be important to understand this dialogue further. Please be reminded, we can digest pretty much all, and we'll look at the broader market. We believe that we compete against pretty much all retailers offering this or that kind of goods for children. We split our competitors into three main groups. One is grocery or food retailers, then specialized retailers, and then um, online retailers, starting with the simplest specialized retail. In fact, we see marketing agencies confirm that our share in this particular market segment is very close to 90%. No strong competition is observed whatsoever. Considering the closest rivals, Korablik, like Detskimir is number one, Dochki is number two, and Korablik is number three. In the past 18 months, they have lost half of their retail chain, simply shutting down their stores. As of today, more than 70% of their stores are located in close vicinity to Detsky, hence they're losing their traffic very much significantly. They don't have the pricing side as a stronger point. So um, an M&A has never been an option for us here, especially now. I believe that this company is going to move out of the market in the very near future. Now, a few words about Dodgeki, number two player. They have shut about 15 stores in total since the start of the year, or in other words, 10% of their chain, and they have been showing negative total GMV growth the recent years. So their decline is happening at an even faster pace than Korablik, so they'll be moving out soon. Considering further smaller players in specialized retail, they are even less sustainable. Maybe Toy.io is a well-known name for you. They have shut down a third of their chain, so they're shutting down their business effectively. Now, considering the online group, online retailers, well, I would like to emphasize that our growth in sales of goods for children has been one of the highest in the market. Last year, that was the case. In the first quarter this year, that was the case. So uh, we're one of the best. Nonetheless, Ozone and Wildberries still show some good performance, but we can clearly compete against them rather successfully, considering an even smaller cohort of players, Memsi and My Toys, they're moving out of the market. Similarly, to specialized offline retailers. It's all about market consolidation, which is getting faster. Understandably, major online retailers are trying to compete against one another, with some of the price competition getting hated and stuff like that. Now, wild berries. I would like to hand over to Mr. Pavel Pischikov. Can you explain how we're going to compete against wild berries?
Павел, ты нас слышишь?
Pavel, can you hear us?
Тебе нужно микрофон включить.
Pavel, you need to unmute your mic. Yeah, can you hear me now? Yeah, now we can hear you. Great. Hello, indeed, I'm Pavel Pischikov, and I'm in charge of e-commerce with Detsky. Let me comment on the page currently on your screen that's tackling online competition via a better offering. Generally speaking, any online sales channels would factor in the three main elements, such as price leadership, broad and exclusive assortment, as well as faster and wider delivery, which leads to superior customer experience and satisfaction. As Maria has explained, Detsky has price leadership as part of its DNA. We are making sure that our prices are 4 to 7% below those of Ozon and Wildberries, our main online competitors. Our sales volumes are 3 times higher than those of Ozon and WB, and then 10 times broader, because marketplace would normally offer a proposition coming from a lower number of SKUs, coming from a broader range of vendors. So Ozone and Wildberries have a smaller share of their own goods and a broader group of 3P sales. Instead, Detsky controls a lot of its SKUs as 1P, and 3P sales are rather insignificant. So we are entitled to controlling the price in a better way. And then assortment. Our private labels are rather strong, standing at 44% of the turnover in 2020, exclusively available through Detsky. We intend to grow that to 60% by 2024. Our marketplace project cannot be overlooked either. We intend to raise our share to 2 million SKUs by 2023 or 2024, which would mean we'll have a clear leadership in goods for children as compared to Ozone or Wildberries in Russia. Now, considering the logistics and delivery, Detsky has its chain of about 800 stores covering the territory of Russia from Kaliningrad to Vladivostok, and we use those as warehouses, storing 30 to 40,000 SKUs, which are mostly in demand by the customers. In other words, Detsky has 1,800 dark stores in total, which neither Ozone nor Wildberries can do today. And then goods can be delivered within about 80 kilometers away from the store. And given the fact that our stores are located in most populated places, that would cover about 80% of the country's population. And then we have a high customer NPS. So we're better than Ozone and Wildberries, while standing at 56% NPS, and we intend to grow to 70% by 2024. That's it. Maria Davidova speaking. Thank you. And then food retail, one last group of competitors. Sergey, can you comment? Here we normally refer to Nielsen reports, and specifically to baby foods and nappies. That's where we compete against food retail. We have an update for the 5 months of the year. As you can see at the top of the page, Detsky is the only player of all channels raising their market share. Supermarkets are on the rise as well. However, we clearly see a shift of customers away from hypermarkets who are losing their customers over to supermarkets. However, if you consider hypermarkets and supermarkets combined as a single food retail channel, you'll see that it's flat across the 5 months. So that combined share is not growing. On the nappy side, we're definitely in the lead, the main sales channel, and the only player raising the market share in the market then that is not growing. So market share is 40% based on the 5 months this year. And then you see numbers of online sales on the top of each bar. Our market share exceeds 60%. Our share here exceeds 60%, which is good. Um, Finally, to conclude with the intro, I would suggest that we quickly touch upon our high-level strategy and then proceed with the most exciting bit of today's event, which is the Q&A. Please be reminded, in mid-2020, we significantly updated the company's strategy to really fast-track the growth of the business. Our ambition is to double our sales in the upcoming 4 years and move online sales upwards to 45% share. So our midterm efforts will be focused on further improvements of the omnichannel proposition, with the focus on the following four elements: broader coverage of our retail chain with organic growth, accelerated investment in logistics and faster online deliveries. Thirdly, a continuous expansion of our product proposition. We have obviously private label products and marketplaces growth opportunity, and then better and best-in-class UX and CX. Starting with omni-channel retail platform, please be reminded that our growth of in the number of stores not only expands our coverage offline, but also improves online sales and improves coverage of the online sales. Please be reminded about 85% uh, of online sales would result in a pickup from our offline store. This fact serves to prove how this pickup service is popular with the customers. A number of reasons are underlying as to why customers really enjoy this kind of pickup. First and foremost, we uh, would complete an order within just an hour, and within an hour's time, it's available for pickup. There are lots of stores, so it's convenient to find a store that would be easy for you to access. Then, alternatively, we can do express delivery and get the product to the customer's door. Thirdly, we don't set any floor on the ticket size. It's 300 rubles. So if you want to buy a pen or a notebook, then it's impossible to get a deliver. Otherwise, it is possible. So that's generally a market pattern. And then that's why customers really like picking up products from our offline stores. And the same is true for Wildberries. They have 90% of their deliveries via pickup points. So then we would like to have an accelerated investment in logistics. We would like to have better coverage of the last mile in the regions because we do deliver from the stores already, and that's a unique proposition across the competition. We intend to open 230 plus Detsky Mir stores in the coming couple of years. And then we have identified a new format tested for a number of years now. That's a pickup point of 250 square meters, nonetheless containing shelves with about 2,000 SKUs in such a small store. 50% of the revenues will be coming from the shelves. That's a traditional store, effectively, and the other 50% will be coming from handing out online deliveries, online orders. Um, the new Detmir pickup point will enable us to reach out to smaller settlements, cities, and towns with less than or fewer than 50,000 of population. That would still not suffice for the feasibility of our standard store, but for the pickup points, that's fine. And that represents about 25% of the total Russian market, thus a major growth potential for us. And again, this is going to support our online sales. So in total, we intend to open 800 plus Detmir pickup points up until the year of 2024. A few words about our logistics. Fast delivery today is a must-have for any online retailer. Hence, we are moving very fast towards that end with an aggressive goal of developing the infrastructure, and our target is about 80% of online orders, excluding those available in 60-minute time in the store. So 80% of online orders to be delivered next day and no later than that. So please be reminded back in April last year, when the country was hit with a lockdown, we only had one distribution center in the Moscow region, and that really limited our online growth and development. We understood that in order to move forward, we need to develop chain of regional DCs. In 2020, we launched one in Rostov-on-Don. In April 2021, we launched a second regional distribution center in Kazan, in partnership with the Russian Post. And then we launched construction of major federal DC in the city of Yekaterinburg, which is going to launch in January 2022. Its target is not about online sales support, but generally supporting the growth of Detsky, with two small regional DCs to be opened in January 2022 in Novosibirsk and St. Petersburg. As a result, within a year, a year's time, our warehouse floor space would grow to 220 square meters, or by 1.5 times in total. That would be um, sufficient to improve the level of service so that 80% of online orders would be delivered next day. On top of that, we have broadened our network of postomats and partnership pickup points so that our customers would really find it convenient to pick up their orders from Detsky. From the start of 2021, there is a growth by 3.5 times. So currently we have more than 21,000 partner pickup points, and that number is growing. Finally, enhancing user experience and customer experience, yet another pillar of our strategy, a must-have, where we intend to reach perfection in customer service. In the first half of 2021, our team has been working to improve functionality of our mobile app. We are driven by adhering to mobile-first principle. Mm, so first we do the mobile app, then we further develop the web. So as a result, about 85% of all online sales happens through the app. That's a record high number. On top of that, we have started piloting a subscription service, or recurring orders, as we call it. That is very much to the point of FMCG goods, nappies, baby food, uh, food for pets. So we intend to launch it in the second half of the year, and we really expect the UX to be improved. I would like to hand over to Mickey, our product director, so hope he explains our upcoming projects, the pipeline of projects from his backlog. Thank you. I'm Mikhail, uh, product director. So let me say a few words about how our digital product strategy is organized, like what we'd like to get at the end of the road. So please imagine three balls, which can be all inflated with air. The first ball is basic user experience, which we need to compete against Ozon, Yandex, Wildberries, and other advanced online products. So we need to be on par with them. So we are pumping that ball, of course. Then another ball is differentiating user experience. That's what makes us special as a specialized retailer in children's goods. That's what our customers must remember from their experience with us. And the third ball is what we call experimental user experience, new products, games, services, whatever could be useful for the company um, to monetize our on our customers and try new things with them. Now, if you consider the second half of 2020 and what we had at the end of that year, we were streaming the air pumped into the first ball to put us on par with user experience elsewhere. And the mobile app we launched at the end of December, which was part of the top 10 ranking in iOS App Store and Android Google Play Store. Uh, in shopping category, that is our own development in full. That was an important step because it was fully developed in-house. And then I would also give you a number of projects so that you'll see we were pumping first and foremost in the first ball. Apple Pay, Google Pay, linking your card and your account, uh, linking your account on the web and in the mobile app, because these used to be different in the past. Now we have fully updated the user journey, the customer journey when making an order. And I would like to share that with Pride, our RPU metric. So all these changes in buttons has resulted in making 14% more money with every user. And the potential to improve CX and DX is quite high. With our scale, it's going to be just great looking forward. Considering the first half of 2021, well, we have made um, very important steps in improving the search engine, for example. We are integrating Google Connect uh, with Google ID and Apple ID to log in. Then we have product recommendations and a support chat, like so that you could have access to the support team via chat in the mobile app. And we have launched the mobile app for Kazakhstan, which didn't have it. But now we have been shifting our focus away from that um, to improve the user experience in our particular market. We have tried services for parents. We're also offering services, a new area for us, which we'll be offering to our customers. And then we have completed some experiments with gamification, some facelifting, the presentation of our products with all sorts of loot boxes, bonus boxes, and other small games, which would be offered possibly as part of our loyalty program for future clients. On top of that, we are moving offline with our digital proposition. We have a project Detsky Mir 3.0, which is friendlier in goods pickup with all sorts of electronically managed queues and more convenient ways to get your order, stuff like that. Now, if you consider our future looking forward, then an important point here with all in-depth interview, CGM research, and other types of research is handled in-house by this team. This is the major source for us to understand what we need to do for the benefit of our customers. Well, clearly, it's on the table. On the face of it, our clients need a mobile app, we need to deliver a mobile app. Nothing weird about it. But now we are trying to look into very specific projects, like what problems our clients are facing, how they can solve them. We have lots of tests, lots of interviews. And our key growth point from now on, and for all the future projects, is about incomplete orders. Like, early on, someone would like to get 8 goods and only manages to get 6, let's say, this is a feature of a business because the assortment on offer could be different in one store and the nearby warehouse. Um, but then we could potentially split one order into several and then filter the easiest way to get the goods delivered. So we'll have that carved out as part of special user experience like Detmer Express, where you could have the goods delivered from the nearest Detsky store. That's a very interesting user experience. So we have lots of projects, and we have our Q&A session later on to explain them in greater detail. Thank you. Just a quick word as well about CX customer experience. We have also considered what we need to improve in offline stores to improve the customer experience because um, the number of orders is growing by margin, and we target 45% of all online orders. How can we ensure that not only we manage a major turnover, um, but also provide good customer experience in offline stores? Detsky Mir 3.0 is the answer. We have piloted that in one location this year. It's more digital with electronic queue to get a pickup. We have a dedicated area to have the goods stored because that would enable faster pickup. That's our key target. Yeah. Our next focus in strategy is about the marketplace. That's yet another element which can be considered as a must-have for online business, offering the broadest proposition. So we launched that in the autumn of 2020, and now we're trying to do the rollout. So we have increased the product proposition online by 4.2 times to 420,000 SKUs, and our target of 3P sales is 1 billion. Based on the first 6 months, I would like to have 1 million SKUs at the end of the year. So 1 billion rubles is not yet too big. Our target in the midterm is 2.4 million SKUs and about 10% share in sales. Now, finally, digital services. Mika has touched upon that. Generally, we did test it in 2020 with 70 mobile apps and 30 services for children and parents in various segments on our mobile platform. It was part of our app. And we saw very significant interest and good conversion from the customers. In the end, we decided to go ahead investing in that area. So we have a product team dedicated to that. We are developing a fully fledged product to be launched 2022. Uh, in April. So that would be so that in early, the launch is to be at the end of 2021 or in early 2022. So it's going to be about services, not only customer proposition, but also other services and educational services, for example, and all sorts of content. In a nutshell, in the years to come, we intend to keep transforming our business of a vertically integrated digital retailer. Will focus on omnichannel strategy and keep consolidating the market, growing above the market and above the competition, and also get deeper into the pockets of Russian customers. In order to implement these ambitious goals, our team intends to fast-track our development across the major areas of focus, and we are also going to be fast in rolling out Zozavra stores, which is a specialized pet retailer of goods for pets. So, and some other projects are also in the pipeline, which we'll be happy to disclose later on. And thank you for your attention. We're happy to proceed with the Q&A session. And again, please be reminded, for those of you who have joined online, you have the possibility to unmute yourselves as you see fit. If you have questions, you're most welcome to unmute. Please keep your mic muted when you're not talking, but at any time you can unmute and start asking a question. Just a quick clarification to Mickey about this problem uh, of incomplete orders. Do you have any analytics showing how many orders you're losing because of that issue? Answer: I can give all this information to you. Yep. Yes, of course. We have really studied that matter in depth, depending on the platform, whether there is a special proposition or not. Uh, the number of incomplete orders is 15 to 20%, which is very significant. That's a huge growth point. And let's say if some of the goods are missing, uh, we offer to our customer to make a second order, but still this is not what they expect. Like one order will be delivered from a nearby store, the other one from the warehouse, but it would still be a single order for you, one payment, one user experience. So in that case, our uh, a loss, so to say, would be much less. We're trying to resolve that in terms of logistics. We're trying to fix that with the right filter site. And also, um, if some people order goods regularly via Detmir Express, well, they are more prepared to have their orders split. We see that with Ozon when they split one order into several deliveries, so we'll get the same for them. Question. Thank you for your answer. I had some feedback, but apparently you are aware of this issue. But apparently your app does not allow you to have a complete order. Like it says impossible. You can't proceed with your order. I like on a number of occasions did I flee away to Ozone. You're saying it's 15 to 20%. I thought the number would be high, but no, nonetheless. My other question goes to Maria. In your presentation, you have explained that the company is considering further strategy and you're looking into other options like potentially hitting other categories. I understand you're not ready to disclose anything, but can you at least explain what kind of categories you're looking into? What could be adjacent to your categories? Answer. We are considering non-food categories and those categories that are in good synergy with the core business. Uh, Pet supplies is a good example, which we started testing online and saw a good synergy with our customers. If, in effect, Detsky has a well-established infrastructure, which enables fast development into those categories without the need to invest into much of the new infrastructure. As of now, we're testing other categories online as well, like on the side, we have launched apparel for women. We are going to launch home goods. So that's the kind of development I'm talking about. Question. It's that going to be the same objective, a large share of private label goods? Answer, of course, for sure. Sergey Levitsky speaking. Maybe let's go one by one. Uh, I'm referring to colleagues online. Please open up your mic. I see Alexander Gnusarev raising his hand. Yes, hi, that's Alexander from VTB Capital. I would like to ask several questions, if I may. One question you often hear, like, your guidance has 25% of EBITDA growth in the first 6 months. What's the growth of SG&A and what's the growth of your gross margin in the first half? Thank you. Alexander, obviously I cannot disclose the numbers for the first 6 months for you now. The only thing I can tell you is this: in the year of 2021, the share of new segments such as pet supplies or um, pickup points, that mean pickup points, we don't expect our margins to come down on the EBITDA margin side or on the gross margin side. So our expectation for 2021 is to be slightly less EBITDA margin as compared to 2020. 2020, while still demonstrating very solid growth in absolute EBITDA. Considering further periods, well, we're going to discuss the segments later on and consider the positive and negative impact on the top line and also EBITDA margin. And we can discuss that in greater detail with you. Responding to a question about the gross margin, 6 months to 6 months. Our first 6 months really helped us. In the first 6 months of 2020, we were hit with the COVID-19 pandemic lockdown and a major shift of the mix towards low margin diapers and baby foods. So it was much easier for us to see some good growth in the first half 2021. And in the second half 2021, it will be very difficult for us to maintain this kind of growth because the second half of 2020 saw a normalized mix already. More importantly, major online players demonstrated very good growth in 2021 first 6 months and also second 6 months. But now they would need to invest into pricing. They have no other option. As a price leader in this market, will need to invest into prices as well. As Maria has rightly put it somewhere in the middle of her presentation, we have a large share of private label sales, which would offset our investment into prices, but still there will be an investment. I would focus not on the gross margin, but on the EBITDA margin. So our expectation for the full year, the EBITDA margin will be somewhat lower than in 2020, but nonetheless sustainably high. A further clarification question from Alexander. What are you talking about? 50 basis points, 100 basis points? And so, I cannot provide um, you with a good answer. That would be too large for a peasant and too cheap for a duke, as they say. It's very much of a guesstimation exercise. We clearly believe it will be in excess of 10%. I hope that would make you happy. Alexander speaking. Thank you for your answer. Then two further quick questions. Your geography of new store openings and the expectations of organic growth. Which regions would you see most prospects lying in? Artyom Gubanov speaking, Director for Property and Development. Just like we said, we intend to open 230 standard format stores across all of the country and pretty much the same rate at which we're going today. I wouldn't say there is any specific region that is more attractive. They're all attractive because we're not there and we need to be there to increase the number of customers and market coverage. We intend to develop more actively in Belarus. We haven't been there for long, and the growth opportunity is very clear. Another promising region is the Far East, because we only penetrated into that market about 4 years ago, so the penetration is still good. As to the other federal districts of the country, we will be growing pretty much with an even spread, as we have been doing so far. I hope that answers your question. And what's the total capacity of the market? What's the potential of this organic growth? Answer, we see the possibility to open 230 standard format stores. That's about 100 square meters in the upcoming 3 years. We're not looking too far into the future. Well, obviously, it's not the 100% of the market. We'll still have room for growth, although maybe not at such a high pace because we're everywhere already, from Kaliningrad to Petropavlovsk on Kamchatka. So the number of cities is only 85 from 40 to 70,000 people. So only 85 cities with no Detsky store. And we'll be opening store number 15 or number 17 in the other cities. Yep, and a quick word from Medvedeva, we'll be opening 800 Detmir pickup points, again, within the span of 3 years, on top of standard stores. Alexander would like to ask yet another question. What's your capex expectation and what's the category split? Answer. In previous calls, we explained our expectation is 5 to 6 billion rubles, depending on the year. Why so? We intend to open a distribution center, as explained by Mariam. In 2021, we invested significantly into towards construction of our federal DC to be opened early next year. On top of that, at least three regional DCs are in the pipeline, with the capex rather limited at 100 to 150 million. Hmm, that's the kind of capex. Then comes equipment and like 800 pickup points with 4.5 uh, million rubles for each one. Then Zozavar Pet Supplies retailer, 500 stores with the same capex, but the market is so vast and the competition is so little that we need to have more stores, but we are not ready to provide any further guidance on top of the 500. If we say 500, it will be delivered. On the standard stores, again, it's 10 to 15 million, depending on how much you need to prep the site. Then you need maintenance capex, and we are saying it's 50% of the previous year's depreciation, excluding that of the warehouses. That's for the benefit of your model. Further to that comes a new format, Detmir 3.0, the new digital format. We do not expect the capex to change significantly from the 10 to 14 million for a standard store. We are still testing the format, however. Most likely, we'll reformat some of the older stores, especially those where the share of online deliveries is too high. But the amount required would be 400 million within the span of 2 or 3 years from now. Then we have the IT capex. When we explained to the market our strategy back in mid 2020, we explained that we'd need about 2 billion rubles for IT. Now we understand it's all well controlled. All of the developments could be done within a certain time, or you can fast track that by more investment. And if we see the additional capex would add to the top line growth, we'll be happy to invest. The same concerns the marketplace. Those categories which we have touched upon would boost our total GMV, but that would enable more capex needs for the equipment at our warehouses. We'll see. Our current guidance remains as is, 5 to 6 billion of capex per year. So once we update our strategy, and hopefully we do that before the end of the year, we'll give you some more updates on the capex guidance. Thank you for your answers. Thank you. Sergey Levitsky speaking. Then a question from our offline participants, please. Again, thank you for this opportunity to ask a question. I would like to ask a question about the market. The market hasn't been growing, that's so true. And we hear a lot of feedback and concerns from investors. My question is this, how much of an impact do you see from state support of the public? Is that new money for the market? People get subsidies from the government, they start spending more on their kids, or is that about the money that would have been spent anyway because it's for the children if they don't buy something, if the parents don't buy something for themselves? Okay, we did see major subsidies in June, immediately after the lockdown. All families with kids got a subsidy. For each of the kids, it was about 10,000 per kid, so several tranches. So they got about 25 to 30,000 rubles a year. We have analyzed this investment, so it's about 600 million rubles that the government contributed to support families with children. In the course of 2021, further updates were received on the government strategy. They're paying to all school children another 10,000 rubles per kid, those who start their school or they go to school and have been going to school in the previous years, so that money will be paid in August. Further support measures are rendered to families with low income. Now, it would translate to about 600 million rubles again in 2021. That further supports the market. It's not a given that the money will be spent on children, goods for children, because a lot of families also spend this money on food. According to our expectations, in June or in July or August this year, we will see some significant effect on our performance. What happens next? It's difficult to say. A lot depends on further policies of the government because they have support for the mothers um, who get a major subsidy for delivering a baby. Um, it's not a direct hit on our market because you can only spend this money not on consumer goods, but that's very much targeted capital. But it does affect family budget, potentially releasing other money to be available for uh, goods for children. In a nutshell, we see support from the government. Understandably, the birth rate is part of the core agenda for the Russian government. They're trying to address the situation to the extent they can, and in any case, that's better than nothing. Thank you. That has been a comprehensive answer. Another question, if I may. Now, if you could disclose that, the first 3 weeks of the third quarter, have you seen any of the slowdown because of the next wave of COVID and abnormal heat hitting the country? Any of the reduced traffic in malls? And how much significant is that? Answer, that's really too early to explain, too early to comment. It hasn't been too long into third quarter. Malls are really facing lower traffic, but as was the case in previous lockdowns, we have a lot of targeted traffic, and it's higher. And when the traffic is lower, our conversion becomes high, and we can compensate with online sales. In a nutshell, we expect the situation to improve on the weather side in the very near future. So it's going to improve on the weather side, and we expect the payments to school kids, like 10,000 rubles, to be supportive. And generally, we have positive expectations from Q3. Okay, next question will be coming from the webcast. Colleagues, do you have questions? Yeah, can you hear me, Maria Elukina speaking from BCS? I have several questions. Let me ask two. Uh, Frankly, you have answered most of my questions during the presentation. Thank you. I have a question about the margins and your trends across various countries. Let's start with the EBITDA margin. What's the EBITDA margin in Belarus? What's the EBITDA margin in Kazakhstan? What's the EBITDA margin in Russia? And how is it different from the other two countries? What's your outlook on these markets? Thank you. That's my first question. Okay. Thank you, Maria. Both Belarus and Kazakhstan has a better margin, have a better margin than is the case with the standard store in Russia. That is a well-established store format, demonstrating slightly better performance in EBITDA margin in those two countries, which were not difficult to penetrate into. Our first year in Belarus had zero EBITDA, which was above our expectation. Now the expectations are like we were really hit by the COVID in Kazakhstan. It's well aware that the lockdown was much harder in Kazakhstan, with the stores locked down as well very frequently. But now we have ramped up and compensated for the lockdown. The EBITDA margin is higher. Just like I said, it's higher by at least 0.5% percentage points or 50 bips approximately. We're growing our online sales um, uh, very actively in Kazakhstan. We're delivering from the warehouse, and now it's going to be from the stores. But nonetheless, we don't expect any of the reduction in EBITDA margin, only the growth in the top line. Thank you. And my other question then, more of a rhetorical question, maybe you can handle that. New shareholders, do they have any impact on the strategy? Are they going to impact the management of the company? Any plans to develop the company for the 2 or 3 years? Well, From March this year onwards, we have been operating under the new board of directors representing the new shareholder as well. We started with a major immersion exercise for the board members. We had a series of onboarding meetings, and the strategy that the company is currently pursuing has been fully supported and shared by the shareholder, as is the case with support to the top management team. So we do not foresee any changes. It's a general discussion with strategic updates to the board and the shareholder.
Спасибо. Передаю
Okay,
слово
thank you.
коллегам.
Коллеги,
So, another question from the offline participant. Uh, I understand there are lots of questions about online sales. Let me ask about online sales. Sorry, offline sales. You have mentioned it that your share in specialized retail is 90%. Don't you fear that you grow so large it wouldn't be possible for you to grow offline because there will be no one to consolidate? Answer. Well, at some point in time, that's going to happen. It's not the midterm perspective. Well, you hear that our organic growth opportunities are not unlimited. Nonetheless, let me repeat it. We have identified a new market, which is locations with a smaller population, like a whole quarter of the Russian market, a totally new area for us, 40 to 70,000 people. And then marketing agencies report that our market share is close to 90%. They don't measure the full picture. They only measure cities with 1 million of population, 1 million plus. And then again, we are very actively consolidating the market share in the growing online segment. So that's another growth point for us. Okay, thank you. Then another question on online. You have mentioned you expect to have more pressure, more pricing pressure from online players in the second half of the year. How does this really work? Do you see more pressure from 1P sales models, or would Ozon uh, be trying to compete with 1P model where their vendors are forced into participating promos? And so we see most of the um, pressure in the 1P scope. 3P scope is still a smaller part of our business without major impact on the overall performance. So it's 1P. But again, thanks to private labels, we're still confident, even in 1P, and we're very much aggressive price-wise. Our pricing policy has not changed. Thank you.
коллеги,
Sergey Levitsky speaking, colleagues from the webcast. The next question will be coming from the webcast. You can unmute yourselves and keep going. Marat Ibragimov from Gazprom Bank asking a question. Why do you think your competitors are weak? Like they could replicate your model, right? You have very clear pricing policy. They could do the same. What's got wrong? Answer. Okay. You're asking about specialized retailers, right? Um, Two reasons why we are successful, they're not. The growth pace and the size. Detsky decided to grow organically in a very much aggressive fashion at one point. So that big scale has allowed us to really pull away from the competition, commercially speaking. The larger volume you have, the better terms you get from the vendors, the better is your margin, but you can still be aggressive on the pricing side. On the other hand, Detsky has always had a major focus on operating efficiency. It's all about the cost, and we're much more successful than the competition in this regard. And we could compare us against the competition as part of a due diligence exercise. So these are the two reasons. That's why we're there. Question, and now are you now competing against the key players online, like Ozone and Wildberries? Answer, it's pretty much the same situation here. we have showed how we compare against the competition. On the cost side, it's so much cheaper for us, like we spend much less on developing online. It's first and foremost marketing, and we have a mature and well-known brand, so we don't have to invest heavily into its development. We only have supportive investment here. And the second thing is logistics. Please be reminded, 85% of all orders are delivered via our stores. We use that infrastructure. And we often say that our EBITDA in this part of the business is double digit. It's close to offline EBITDA because our costs are lower. Question, low price online is different from low price offline. With offline, you can have a cheap diaper located in the distant corner of your store, so that you benefit from cross sales and traffic. So I believe it doesn't work like that online. It's must be a low price plus something different, like knowing your customer, for example. Is my thinking correct? No, I don't quite follow you. Repeating the question, then, your competitive edge in pricing is lost online as compared to offline, because online your customers can only order a nappy from you at a low price. In offline store, you would place the cheap nappy in a distant corner and have something cross sold to them, right? No, no. You see, we have several elements of our competitive edge, like private labels, and in all categories across the board, we are the category leaders. They're growing still. In online sales, that story is very effective too. Secondly, we have aggressive pricing because of the scale. And then again, we have the same private label products. Like all private label products are developed with the idea of price coming first. We look at the market, we see what's available, we have the best quality and the lowest price. And finally, if you compare Detsky against other online players, we have offline retail and offline contact with the customers, enabling us to offer much better availability and much better service. Question. Well, you bring customers into your stores, right? Well, answer, we don't have to bring. We are not doing it as yet, although in theory we could have done this. It's somewhere on our agenda, somewhere at the back of our minds. So, generally speaking, we could potentially motivate clients to incentivize them to visit our stores, but now we don't have to. It's their choice. We don't do anything for that to happen. I can also give you this highlight. Back in April last year, when the lockdown was at its harshest, the share of orders that customers wanted to pick up from the stores went down to 70+%. So when they needed to get a QR code just to get out of their home, they still were happy to go to a store. It's not that we don't offer delivery, we do. We can have super express delivery from a store or courier delivery and lots of postomats and pickup points, but nonetheless, they would like to pick up from our stores. What's also great to have when they come to our stores, they would buy something else, like 15 or 20% more on top of their ticket, which is a positive effect. That is very good for our business. Question: what's your pricing policy? You can come to a store and buy at a cheap price, and you can buy the same online at the same price, correct? Why so? Answer: because of the physical constraints offline. Online, you can change the price pretty much in a minute. You can click a button and the price would be updated for the online stores. Then offline, it's more challenging, which is the same for any retail player. Like you need to print new um, um, tags, price tags. You need to place them. So physically, there is a limitation. Uh, Offline, we would update our prices pretty much every day, and when we do so, we try to unify those with online. It's omni-channel, but at any particular point in time, the prices still could be different because we update them online more frequently, and we are more aggressive in promos online, because again, we can change that in a matter of a click, like with a twist of fingers. On top of that, we keep track of our revenue every day, and when we see it's not doing as well as we wanted, we would launch an additional promo uh, so that we could get into the green zone. So online, it's a little bit more frequent price changing and more promos, but the general trend is to have omni-channel pricing. Thank you. Now, next question will be coming from the webcast. Any of you can unmute your mic and start talking. Okay, Maxim Nekrasov from Goldman Sachs would like to ask a
Вопросов по
question.
поводу
I have a
онлайна
group
и
of questions about online sales and more specifically, your marketplace efforts. So, marketplace, how many vendors do you work with? 3P vendors, I mean. How is your onboarding arranged? How much time does it take? Do you test the goods in any way because it's so sensitive? That would be enough for now. Thank you.
Володина Мария.
Maria Volodina
За
speaking.
коммерцию маркетплейса отвечаю я, и,
I'm in charge of
соответственно, все вопросы.
marketplace, so
Сейчас на площадке около
I'll handle all your questions.
200
We currently have about 1,200 vendors,
брендов. Это, честно, больше,
um,
наверное,
but that's vendors. The number of brands is
на
much
базе.
higher, about 2,000 in total, because each vendor would have at least several
Наша
brands.
площадка открыта для всех.
Our
Как
marketplace
предполагается,
site
мы
is
готовы
open
к
for
тем
anyone who would wish to do
категориям, которые мы
the
видим
sales.
в
Obviously, we have a different strategy for those categories we know quite
для
well,
нас
where we would like to get the merchants we need, and there is a list whom we'd like to have commercially, and in order to bring in other merchants, because these things are interrelated. At one point in time, we learned how to do that in offline retail, and now we're trying to replicate the same model, but online. Those merchants whom we value, we work to bring them into the marketplace, while all other merchants can get information from public sources. Indeed, the registration doesn't um, take much time. It's very straightforward, and the sign up procedure to exceed our agreement is very easy as well. We also consider only those merchants whose goods we have tested and with whom we'd like to work. They are complementary to our main business. We cut off whatever does not get through the content moderation, whichever does not meet the regulations. Otherwise, it's pretty much straightforward. We keep getting regular feedback from the merchants. They have those forms to fill in, so we know how this works for them. I hope this answers your question. A quick follow-up then. I understand the number of merchants, but what's your plan that you can disclose? How many merchants would you like to get by the end of this year or in the midterm? And those who are already subscribed, what's the category split? Goods for children or toys? Any specificity here? And what's the progress in updating the categories, like apparel for women that you have launched and home products? Thank you. Answer. Okay. We started with apparel and footwear for children because that would be the largest, those would be the largest categories volume-wise. Historically, we also understand with an 85% offline private label sales, we cannot really be considering any broader customer proposition, although the shelf is much broader on the number of SKUs potentially available. Hence our vision, we understand that 80% of the SKUs is fashion and 20% is consumer goods for the marketplace, but reality has proven different. The current SKU split is 60% fashion and 40% consumer goods. The consumer goods are demonstrating some very good performance because of many small independent distributors and vendors uh, of various formats that they have something to offer um, to Detsky customers. We have strategic vision as to what we do this year or next year. You're right, we have launched women's apparel back in February uh, this year. We're still looking at how this category develops because it's different from goods for children. It's a little bit different requirements towards content. So we are perfecting all our operations with smaller volumes, but still the growth is positive. We get traded. Although we always had a bridge in the form of apparel for pregnant ladies, which we produced as private label goods and sold online in volumes. Our other group is home products, as Maria has explained. We're still testing in order to build up our experience in the field. So we'll be rolling that out by in 2022. Understood. Thank you. As a follow-up, let me carry on with digital and IT developments. Could you give more detail about your IT team? How large is it? Are they doing development, marketplace, digital? What's your plan to increase that team and the size of investment required towards digital products in the midterm? Are you considering any potential strategic partnerships online? Because that's uh, very much hot topic these days. Nikolai Yermakov, IT director speaking. Let me handle that question. I'm in charge of all IT and development in particular. Our IT team is currently comprised of about 300 people. About 200 of those are involved uh, in product development. These are split into several teams, of course, and the marketplace team has about 30 people in total. That would further be split into sub-teams, but that's the general order of things. As a result, about 100 people are involved in supporting the IT systems and supporting all their stores across the country, online, everywhere, the DCs and everything related to that. We intend to grow by about 2 times within a year's time, and the number of teams will grow too, with new products and digital services that Detsky is currently developing. So this product team model allows us to have a small group of people, about 10 in total, to move up quite quickly and deliver the goods. So that's it on the headcount and our ambition in growth. You also had something else in your question. Have I answered? Yes, that's clear. My further questions relate to your total investment towards uh, online growth and also strategic partnerships. Pavel Pishikov speaking. Can you explain strategic partnerships? What do you mean? question from Maxim Nekrasov. We see a lot of players in the market. Really thinking about it, is that on your agenda, or are you not even considering any strategic partnership online or elsewhere with the existing players? Maria Davidova speaking. We are considering lots of things, in particular when it comes to those new projects in digital services. We're doing that in partnership with major players in particular services. We're looking broader, but I cannot really give any more specifics because it's still early on in negotiations. So in a nutshell, yes, we are looking into that because we'll be launching those services with partnerships on, and you're going to hear more from Anna on the investment required. Yep. Thank you. We intend to invest at least 2 billion into IT. And that's the minimum amount. I really wouldn't want to update any capex number, IT or online, because then we'll start speaking, okay, if that's the capex, what's your level of debt? And we'll have to go open as to how we intend to manage all of that. In a nutshell, we do intend to invest, and in any case, all the investments would result in the total GMV growth. Pavel Peshikov with a quick follow-up. Whether you were asking or suggesting that we market our products at other marketplaces, then definitely not. Thank you. Sergey Levitsky speaking. Okay. Question from our offline participants now. Several questions. Can you explain the competition against online players, specifically in Moscow? You have driver is about developed logistics, which is developed in Moscow, and many of those are launching express deliveries. Do you see that as an additional pressure for business? Do you really have to go more aggressive on pricing in Moscow? Pavel Peshikov speaking. In a nutshell, no. To put it briefly, our pricing and promo planning is the same across all the regions. We only single out those regions where we have new regional DCs opened. We do have special promos there, but generally we don't see Moscow coming down. It has been coming down historically, but that decline is not about Moscow's share coming down, but rather the regions developing at a faster pace. That trend has been observed over the past several years. Our competitive strategy online has been explained on numerous occasions previously, but let me run you through the bullet points. We have a broader range of SKUs, a lower price, and a faster delivery. And it's simpler. Indeed, our competitive edge in Moscow is not as apparent. Delivery speed is there for pretty much all of the market, but we are still in the lead on the price and on the assortment. Thank you. Thank you. And we have another question on logistics. What's currently going on with the warehouses? How about the cost of that, and whether that could affect your capex budget looking forward? Here's my answer. Everyone is fighting for resources. And the question is how we are trying to be more efficient. We're investing into people. That's the most valuable thing we have on the market. And then we consider our productivity. So we are trying to compare how we improve year on year, and that's plus 30%. But we're not going to stop there. We understand we need to grow further. So we're trying to move faster. So we're doing, like we're speaking, to fast track our development. One other element is transportation. Transportation is a major thing for us. So we have invested into transportation. module. So we have a transparent array of logistical companies, so we can be very open with logistical partners. Then we understand the number of orders, the quality of service available from this or that logistical company, and we see how we transport stuff. Thirdly, it's about optimizing the routing, which is a major thing for us too. So the two things, these are the two things we're actively developing. That's it. Question, but can you comment on the cost of constructing the warehouses? Any changes here? Answer, we are opening one further warehouse with 2.5 billion of investments, and that's come on par with our investments into the other warehouses. But you must understand it's beyond the Urals, where it's even permafrost somewhere. It's more difficult, technologically more challenging, but so we're still staying with the same capex. Now, considering 2024, when we have yet another federal DC, we'll see as we get there. While with regional warehouses, it's 3PL model, so it's not a significant investment at all. And another trend available in the market, again, no secret, we see more expensive outsourcing because of the lockdown on the borders and the COVID. It's going to affect us for sure, uh, albeit with the extra input explained by Dennis. With better productivity, we really believe that we'll still manage to offset part of the tariffs growth with these factors. It would be impossible to compensate all of that, of course, but we'll try to maintain leadership in our logistical costs as a share, so to say, as a share of revenue. Thank you. And one final Q&A, one final question from my side then. Are you considering any M&A deals? Could make sense for pet supplies, for example? Answer, yes, we are considering, and we will consider, as we did in the past. But so far, we have not seen any potential target of interest. In goods for children, we haven't seen any attractive price as compared to the asset. So we decided each time it's much easier for us just to keep building our business, be a strong competitor, and simply wait for those competitors to move out of the market, which is happening. The same situation is happening with pet supplies. Those businesses that could potentially be acquired are very small, not at all developed in terms of regional expansion, very much underdeveloped. And online, we'll see some of them surviving as they start trading via Ozon and Wildberries, kind of a balancing act from their side, but we don't see any good M&A targets, so we decided to go ahead on our own. We'll see what the market has on offer looking forward. Thank you. Thank you. Then our next question would be coming from the webcast. Anyone can unmute your mic and start speaking. Colleagues? Please go ahead. We don't hear any questions from the webcast, do we? Yulia Kazakovtseva speaking, if I may. Yulia Kazakovtseva from UBS, asking this question from the webcast online. I have another question in marketplace. A lot has been said about Detsky's online business and why it could be attractive for the customers, but I have a question about why it could be attractive for the merchants. You have commissions, and I see your presentation suggesting 19 to 22% of commission. That's your long-term vision. Can you comment whether that's what you really like to have? How does that match the competition, and whether you can move that target downward looking forward as the competition gets tighter? Thank you. Okay, speaking about the market in general and the current merchants, they are first and foremost interested in having access to our customer base because our customers are targeted traffic because they need uh, products for children. We have quickly reached a significant share in sales of those merchants who have been with us from the start of the project. We are currently ranking number 3 or number 4 in their sales, especially given that they have been long present with Wildberries or Ozon, and that's the key competitive advantage. On top of that, our loyalty program is rather attractive and a strong one. It is of interest to merchants. So with those two elements, new merchants in women's apparel come in handy because large players normally have products available for children as well as adults. So we would like to develop those cross categories. Hence, we feel rather well. What was your next question then? Oh, okay. About the commission levels. Well, our commission is currently flat, which makes us different from the rest of the pack. We don't take any additional charges. It does vary from 17 to 26%. So at this point in time, it's much more attractive as compared to the large players. They have lower commission, so true, but they charge individually for every operation. As our expertise grows, we're a startup. We clearly understand we cannot offer the same level of service as compared to companies who had invested materially different time and resources towards that end. We'll move over to reduce the upfront commission and charge merchants for marketing uh, and additional services on offer in our marketplace. That's the point. In the longer term, we expect the total commission to be around 20 plus percent in the span of 3 to 5 years. Thank you. That's understood. A quick follow-up. That level, about 20%, is that comparable with those on in Wildberries in your category? Is this correct? And so yes, since we have access to stats our merchants get elsewhere and other platforms, we get good feedback from them, and we can compare our current commission with what they pay elsewhere. The simplicity and the size of our commission is not a hindrance for them to trade through our marketplace. And we see from Ozon, their average commission is 15 to 16%, but it's definitely higher. Their effective rate is much higher because of all sorts of charges that they get, additional services, as they call them. And a quick reminder from Pavel Peshchikov, Ozon has a very small number of SKUs in fashion because of their larger commissions. Okay, now another comment. Let's analyze the goods that give you money. Like, what's the potential to get better terms from your key vendors? And can you explain the delivery terms? Where are the products delivered? Where do you get the products from? Do you get that from one distributor in China or elsewhere? Do you have direct contracts with manufacturers, or do you work with distributors? Okay. Uh, your question's understood. Thank you. We definitely don't like any of the intermediaries, like distributors or any other companies between us um, and the manufacturers. That is part of our DNA. For a number of years running, we have been trying to negotiate direct contracts rather than those through intermediaries. Thanks of that, we have a larger share of direct imports. On top of the private label goods, we uh, will uh, work directly with manufacturers where we have discontinued Russian distributors and have started importing directly with good improvement on the terms. That's one thing. Better terms, yes, our strategy does suggest that as we grow, we offer to our vendors larger sales volumes and better distribution because of the number of store openings. So we offer a better service to them, and we increase the gap against the competition. But on top of the retro bonuses or the price alone um, that contribute to our margin, we have started developing in the field of exclusivity a few years ago. So with every large vendor, we have a term suggesting the share of their volumes that would be delivered with exclusive goods like Lesbra, um, Kimberly-Clark, Hasbro, all of the top vendors across all the categories. So with all these vendors, and there's smaller vendors as well, we focus on some exclusive product range to differentiate Detsky from Ozon, Перекресток, and other competitors. That's important. Question, can you localize manufacturing of your private label goods? Answer, the situation would be different for fashion and consumer goods. Let me start by explaining the terms whether these could be improved. Yes, in fashion they can, but insignificantly. We are the number one buyer in Russia for children's goods. Over these years, the terms have really been pushed towards some very good on the market. We have a long payment deferral, and further movements could rather be insignificant. Localization, then, as long as I have been watching fashion with Detsky, I see there are constraints in technology on the production sides, then management of those sites, and sourcing. These are the three hindrances. Our localization share is about 12% for now in the fashion category. At its highest, it could go to 20%, but again, that's for one category. Only few categories can well be produced in Russia. The other things are not, like apparel. You cannot really make a lot of that in Russia. Simply impossible. Um, in consumer goods, it's different, of course. A quick word about that. I believe you hear all from the previous speakers. Now, with the private labels, we do have some of the bits. Let's consider a toy. If a toy is produced in Russia, uh, that is the case for our private labels then. Some projects in creativity have been implemented as well. Um, Large-scale goods can be produced locally with some of the winter sports, for example, or car seats for babies. But the share is insignificant nonetheless. We look at every category, and as soon as we see something, we'll be happy to invest. Um, but again, that's still a limited possibility. A quick follow-up question then. How about the increased contribution of transportation costs into your cost side? Like, I understand you're selling now what was purchased before December, right? Answer, that's correct. We purchased that in December and it's coming now. So you see, the rate increase at the end of January was transferred to the vendors. In the future, that would be impossible, quite clearly. We try to renegotiate our purchasing terms, but part of the costs will still have to be borne on our end. But our average ticket is growing too because of the country's inflation. Everyone is investing into prices, but for some categories, um, it's less possible or more possible. With all our private label products, however, we manage the costs. Uh, and obviously, the price, if it's the margin is higher than 70%, we don't sell at that margin. So we do offset the transportation cost as well. I just wanted to say you can take a look at our gross margin for the 6 months, but you can't as yet. Not a long wait still remaining. We are tackling this issue rather successfully. Question. So, is it possible that we don't see this problem now, but we'll see it in the future? Answer. No, that's incorrect. We see that problem and we manage it. We cannot say it's fully compensated, but we manage that. Okay. How about private label and your prices? Is fixed price a competitor for you, or the quality simply incomparable? I'm not sure who can handle that question. Okay. Whether fixed price is a competitor, the answer is yes, they are. Just like I said, whoever sells goods for children is a competitor for us. So we don't have any split here. We do do we analyze fixed price product range? Um, well, when we ran our IPO, we did have a snapshot for investors. Fixed price had about 400 or 500 SKUs um, from 99 to 299 rubles. That's their price range. So in our case, for a single boys category, we have 15,000 SKUs, and in total, it's 8,000 SKUs for the category. I may be wrong with the numbers. For the same price range, importantly, we either offer high quality private label goods or brands that we're trying to sell, and there is any marketing campaign or stuff like that. So we had a conclusion back in winter that we need to really make those goods visible in our stores so that clients really understand we have lots of those and they're great. The Detsky Mir 3.0 format does envisage a cashier area with a single price goods, great merchandising, single price goods with a great product range. That's it. Does that answer your question? Um, yeah, thank you. And I have another question of concern to everyone who's trying to do online retailing. Ozone and the others, but mostly Ozone, are suggesting that manufacturers are going to push their marketing budgets towards online sales because online is growing at a faster pace, and many of the vendors would be happy to allocate their marketing budget depending on the channel and format rather than volume. It's difficult for us to understand that from the outside, but do you see that on the inside? Is it any different in your discussions with your vendors? Do they look at ozone of wild berries and do they think they need to promote more through online or through you? Um, my colleagues will definitely follow up, but I wouldn't say there is any new agenda. But well, let me be very frank and open with you. Online has always been a risk factor for the manufacturers because all the large manufacturers are mostly about investments, rather than income. Sometimes they try to invest into pricing to test the market when the whole market uh, starts getting unhappy, and major vendors find it difficult to settle the market then. So from their side, they would be developing online in very cautious ways so as not to upset the full market. And it's not only about Detsky, it's the full grocery retail, which is rather large. And the share of offline retail is still dominating, prevailing at least, and it's 80% plus, depending on the category. Um, so I wouldn't say there's a new agenda, but we are keeping track of the online market, and should there be any fluctuations in pricing, if there is any promos that have been unimproved, we really discuss this with our vendors, and the situation is resolved in our favor. So answering your question, the vendors would not find it beneficial for this competitive struggle to carry on. It would destroy the whole market because the market share of online sales is small in terms of share, but the rest of the market would suffer because of that if they proceed as you suggest. Question, but again, those vendors are giving you a back margin, like rebate margin, uh, but they make more money with Ozon because Ozon is not requesting them to get any rebates. No, no, no. Just I wouldn't say it right. Physical contact with the goods is important, and that's what we offer to uh, to vendors. Like no online channel could replace that, and all of the major vendors have this part as part of their major strategy. They need to maintain contact with the customers and special contact with promoters and advisors, store assistants. Uh, when, let's say, Pampers and Huggies nappies um, would be there online, like customers can only perceive the image, but all other brand values remain on the outside. When they meet in an offline store, it's a completely different situation. Customers can get a different, enriched experience with better knowledge of the product, with physical contact with the product, etc. So, responding to your question again, vendors are not at all interested in upsetting the market. And Western markets clearly confirm that. When online is too mature, gets too mature, we'll see some diversification with special stories, special offers for Ozone, Walmart. Andreas Hawken, Head of Marketing speaking. Can I follow up? Vendors would like to see a comprehensive approach rather than shift of focus. So in that sense, we're in a more beneficial situation as compared to our colleagues from those marketplaces, because as Maria says, we can offer comprehensive customer experience across all the channels, 360-degree customer experience of interacting with the brand and with the goods, while the marketplaces, however large they are, can only offer a narrow scope. So the vendors would like to have 360-degree. Um, they would like to see digital and offline interaction with our customers, and that's what makes us different. A quick follow-up then, if I may. You've mentioned that your private label products produce a larger margin, but how much is it larger? And the same is my question about direct imports. And so, here are some of our numbers. The actual private label and direct import margin is about 10% higher than branded goods, which we buy from distributors in Russia. So it's on the average. Question, you have mentioned that you get a good payment deferral. Maybe you could convert that into cheaper pricing because your financial position is better. Did you have this idea? Answer, we are moving in both directions. Like every year, we ramp up our procurement by 15 to 20%, like per SKU. So that is a clear way to reduce the purchase price. But the terms could be rather aggressive, payment terms. Sergey Levitsky speaking. Okay, let's have another question from the webcast. please unmute yourselves and start speaking with the next question. Any of you can start. Colleagues, I understand there are no questions coming from the webcast. Any other offline question? Yeah, just a quick follow-up on Marat Ibrahimov's question. Can you explain why you get a better margin in private label? Do you save in marketing or elsewhere? Thank you. And a quick word, maybe it's about the working capital and how it moves in private label and branded goods. And so when we speak about our private label market margin, we don't have the distributor's margin, at least. That's only the manufacturer and us, and that's it. And then we manage the costs together with the manufacturer, of course. We understand the materials to be used and how they are to be processed. On the working capital side now, clearly there are pros and cons. We cannot deliver the goods like every week or every month. Instead, we have to bring in a container, at least. So that would come earlier into the warehouse, let's say in June or July, we deliver the goods to be sold in autumn for some positions. Of course, at the same time, we do internal calculations, like when we consider the cost of storing the goods or the cost of capital. And when I say the 10% of extra margin, that already includes all additional costs that we incur in bringing the debt, for example, or storing the goods at the warehouse. So 10% is the net effect. And question, does this include high net working capital? Answer, yes, of course. Sergei Levitsky speaking. We only have 5 minutes remaining. I suggest discussing pet supplies in greater detail. A quick follow-up on Zoozavr. I get the impression you're much more positive today and much more confident about the prospects of this format as compared to what you said at the end of 2020. Although the product mix is still being developed in terms of your private label products, and without your private label goods, you can't really have good success for the new chain. Question, what's the current progress in this product mix? When can one expect any developments? I hardly think you would share the margins, but if I recollect it, you mentioned 12 to 13% at last year's event. How realistic is that? So any numbers you can explain, please. Okay. Fiona Reznikov, Commercial Director with Pet Supplies. Speaking of the product range, which is not private label, we are on par with specialist players, 12,000 SKUs. We intend to grow, as does Ozon and Wildberries. We have a marketplace, so we'll be growing the number of SKUs and higher margin pet supplies, like food for pets, and other popular assortment has already been developed. On the private label side, this is all about getting the recipe, developing product and manufacturing, so it's not a quick one. We have started that quite long ago, so doing that in a rather active way, and we're placing orders with manufacturers already. In Q1 2022, we expect to get the majority of our private labels. So it's 6 or 7 that are being planned across food for pets, goods for cats, etc. So it's 600 SKUs in total. So we'll train the retailers and well, learn how to sell them well. The margins in private labels is definitely higher than in the standard products, but I don't think I can give you the numbers. Let me give the numbers, says Maria. I really wouldn't want anyone to expect we're hiding something or to have very good numbers to surprise them, uh, everyone with them at a later stage. Well, we don't have too many stores. It's not 100, it's not 200, it's fewer. They don't have private label goods there, and we're not really promoting that segment, if you have noticed. Uh, why? Well, understandably, Zozavr is not Detsky mere brand. We need to invest into marketing. We're not blind, we know that. But when the number of stores is so few, it's really not worth burning the money in marketing without any broad store coverage or private labels. So these stores are developing. We're testing various formats. When we presented our model like a year ago, we wanted to have 25 or 26 million of revenue per standard store. That's a standard store again, but if you ask the same question about Detsky, we'd say 150 to 200 million, but we have stores making 60 and we have stores making 700 million rubles of revenues per year. And the same situation is here. One piece of good news and one piece of best news. Well, the good news is that the trend here with Zozavr is pretty much the same as is with Detsky in new store openings. About 30 percent of stores will be opened in large cities where the revenues would be 25 to 26 mil, and the other 70% will be elsewhere in the regions where the revenues would be 16 mil. But the cost side, and that's the better piece of news, is also lower. The cost side is lower than Moscow and St. Petersburg. So their current EBITDA margin is now negative because they don't have private labels and they're not as popular. Now, why are we more confident about this segment? Because we have experience in developing goods for children and we have studied it. And then you know we have on our board two representatives who know this segment and its business. So one is coming from Europe, the other one from the States. So we have information not only about the Russian market, but also about Europe and about the United States. So we have all the data. Um, when we get to sell private label goods at Zozavr next year, we'll understand how much more we'll need to spend on marketing and how much of a boost it would give to the top line at a particular point in time and also in the longer term. That's the story. Thank you. Well, one further question on marketplace. Given the fact you're developing uh, women's apparel and testing home products, if everything goes well, if everything develops well, is there a potential that Detsky would really move towards multi-category plays, something that everyone is really cautious about, but maybe you could do better than the rest of the pack? Answer. Just like I said, we are optimistic about other non-food categories. It's too early to promise anything. We are testing that online. We'll be updating the strategy for you, and we'll be happy to debate with comments. That's the plan. Yep. Question. But the plan is still to make money, right? Rather than what? Hold on. Rather than what? We have quite a few players on the market who's not making the money, and we need to hit some balance here, right? Detsky has always been a good asset for the shareholders that yields dividend and good growth. So frankly speaking, we would like to maintain that and be a stable asset and profitable one. For modeling purposes, well, obviously, we can have a good upside on the EBITDA margin with marketplace. Like if we have an order coming through already, we can add marketplace goods added on top, but you can share the costs for the order, right? And private labels will definitely have a good EBITDA margin, but the GMV growth, well, you don't really expect that to be boosted by margin. Um, Whether we can really spend the money in order to increase the GMV, yes, we can do that, of course, and have GMV much better than Ozon and other players. If that is the target, we can do that, but then who would live to the very end to see the outcome? Hence, we are conservatively moderate in our position. We believe that the share of marketplace would be about 10%, conservatively, admittedly. It would be 10% in our online sales, and very conservatively, it's not going to be loss-making. But how much not loss-making is a good question. We are still testing that, um, trying to understand how we need to invest, how much we need to invest in order to get the GMV growth, and then it's a matter of calculation. Then I would support Maria. We are there to become a profitable business and pay the dividend. We're not Ozone, we're not Wildberries. Investors would simply not allow us to burn the money, so we don't have the capital. Our expectation from the market is as follows. Within a year or two from now, there will be more competition, but hopefully the situation will be repeated as was the case in 2014 and 2015 with major food retailers really fighting against one another, and we were still developing our categories. We are observing the same situation now. Major online players like Sber Market uh, is there, Ozon and Wildberries. Let them fight. They do not only goods for children, but other categories where they will be fighting and will be growing. Well, specialist retailers will still be there, most likely. And the idea of any business is to make money, of course. You can make money on growing your market cap as your total GMV is up, but you're loss making, but not everyone can do that. You understand? Someone will still be making money. So, with the marketplace margins will be growing, commercial margin will be growing. You really um, can't be promoting all those minor vendors at your own cost. They will be happy, but it wouldn't last for long. Sergei Levitsky speaking, colleagues, with this strategic thinking or thought, um, we need to wind up our event today. I hope that has been fruitful for all of you. Thanks to everyone for join, joining us and playing an active part. I believe we are going to maintain this practice in the future. So next year, we will still be most welcome to join in. Thanks to everyone and have a nice day. Thank you. Thank you, team. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your time. It was nice to have met all of you today. Thank you.